Imagine you're standing at the entrance of a dark cave, the sound of water echoing around you. You take a deep breath, feeling the thrill of adventure and a hint of nervousness. As you gear up and step into the water, everything seems perfect. But suddenly, the calm turns to chaos. Your heart races as everything goes wrong. What would you do in a moment like that? Would you be able to stay calm and find a way out? Or would fear take over? This is Fatal Tragedies, with the story of the tragic death of Jared Hyers and Plura Cave. Norway is a place of stunning landscapes and beautiful natural wonders where much of nature is easy to reach. But beneath this beauty are dark secrets known only to a few. One of these hidden spots is Plura Cave, a mysterious underworld that's drawn adventurers from all over the world. Sadly, for experienced diver Jared Hyers, this enchanting cave would become his final resting place. Jared was raised in the heart of northern Florida's cave country, immersed in the technical diving culture that had flourished there. It was a time when Dive Right, the company his father Lamar co-founded, began crafting specialized gear that wasn't available anywhere else. Equipment designed by pioneers of the sport. Over time, Dive Right grew into a brand known for producing not only extreme technical diving gear, but also high-quality recreational equipment, all inspired by the demands of cave diving. In 1997, Lamar took full control of Dive Right, becoming its CEO while his wife, Leanne, assumed the role of CFO. Just last month, the company kicked off celebrations marking 40 years of innovation in the diving industry. For Jared, diving wasn't just a family business, it was woven into his earliest memories. His first experience breathing underwater came at the age of 5 when his father let him breathe from his long hose, an unforgettable moment that sparked a lifelong passion. By the time Jared was 7, Lamar had crafted a mini version of the Transpac harness made just for him. It was more than just gear, it was a connection to the underwater world, to his father, and to the legacy that they were building together. At just 14, Jared began his formal training in cave diving, and by 15, he made a history as the youngest certified closed-circuit rebreather diver. It was a fitting milestone, as Dive Right had just launched its own rebreather, the Optima, marking another chapter in the company's legacy. Diving wasn't just a hobby for Jared, it was his escape and happy place. His skill sharpened through frequent dives in the caves of northern Florida, and by 18, he'd become a scuba instructor. This certification held deep significance for him. It was the first achievement that he earned without his father's guidance, a personal triumph that solidified his place in the diving world. His passion for diving only grew, and he quickly advanced to become a TDI technical instructor specializing in rebreathers, cave diving, and cavern exploration. It seemed inevitable that he would one day work for Dive Right. As a young boy, he had helped price tag products, and by 14, he was assisting in the shop and handling customer calls. After graduating from the university in Florida in 2013, he fully immersed himself in every aspect of the family business. He gained valuable experience in manufacturing, servicing, and marketing, eventually becoming Dive Right's general manager, a role that seemed destined from the start. As general manager of Dive Right, Jared Hyers continued to leave a lasting impact on the technical and cave diving world. His leadership ensured that Dive Right, a company long admired for its pioneering spirit and dedication to quality, stayed at the cutting edge of innovation. Beyond the business, Jared's passion for diving was personal. His favorite dive spot was Little River Springs, nestled close to his home in Lake City, though his adventures took him far beyond the caves of northern Florida. Jared's explorations spanned the globe, from the intricate cave systems of Mexico and the vast giant cave in Belize to the haunting depths of Russia's Orda, Hungary's Mohar Janos, and stunning sights in Norway, Israel, and the Bahamas. Often he dove alongside his go-to buddy, his father Lamar, a bond strengthened through countless shared dives in the most challenging environments. In 2020, Jared shared a memorable moment with Diver magazine, recounting how an early fear of extreme open water diving had melted away after a close encounter with 6 lemon sharks off the coast of Florida. It was an experience that reaffirmed his deep connection to the ocean, even beyond the caves that he felt most at home in. When not diving, Jared found joy in other pursuits, motorcycling through winding roads and cheering on his favorite college football team. For him, life was always about exploration, whether above or below the surface. Unfortunately, in a heartbreaking announcement that reverberated throughout the global diving community, it was confirmed that Jared Hires tragically lost his life during a cave diving expedition in Plura Cave, Norway on April 3, 2024. So what exactly happened? Well, before we get even deeper, let's first understand the Plura Cave system. This cave system is both a diver's dream and an absolute nightmare, an alluring yet dangerous marvel nestled in northern Europe. As the deepest cave in the region, it stands as the crown jewel of Scandinavian cave diving. Located in Rana, Plura draws avid divers from around the world, but many of its underwater systems are perilous and unsuitable for human exploration. Though few accidents occur, the cave system has claimed a number of lives, reinforcing its reputation for being as treacherous as it is captivating. Visibility within Plura extends only as far as a diver's light can pierce through the inky darkness. The water is bone-chilling. Temperatures plunge to a freezing 36 degrees Fahrenheit in winter, rising slightly to 44 degrees Fahrenheit in summer. Wintertime divers face an additional challenge, as the entrance is often buried beneath a thick sheet of ice. Still, the allure of Plura remains strong year-round for those brave enough to face its icy depths. What draws many to Plura Grotto is the vibrant, colorful caves that can be explored by more casual divers before returning to safety. However, for those highly trained and drawn to pushing the limits, the cave offers a deeper, far more challenging course. Venturing further into the system, divers encounter narrow, jagged passageways, frigid water, and total darkness. After navigating through a sump, a submerged tunnel of water, divers finally ascend to the famed cave of Steinogluflaget. Some 90 meters above its vaulted ceiling lies an exit, a small crack in the collapsed hillside accessible only through the Plura River. With its intricate limestone and marble formations, this complex and beautiful cave system remains both a magnet for exploration and a sobering reminder of the risks that it holds. On that fateful day, Jared and his two teammates, let's call them Diver 1 and Diver 2, descended into the icy depths of Plura Cave, their rebreathers humming quietly as they cut through the frigid water. Equipped with top-tier thermal gear and well-acquainted with their tools, it seemed like a routine check dive. The plan was simple: test their equipment to ensure everything was in perfect working order for a deeper, more challenging dive the next day. But what was meant to be just another dive turned into a nightmare none of them could have anticipated. Though it was their first dive in Plura on this trip, Jared and Diver 1 were no strangers to the cave's treacherous passages. They'd explored its depths in years past. Leading the way, Diver 1 took the front, followed closely by Diver 2, while Jared brought up the rear. Confidence hung in the cold, dark waters between them. They'd trained for this and had conquered similar challenges before. But this cave, though, had its own plans. Despite the familiarity and trust in their equipment, the eerie silence of the cave, the bone-chilling cold, and the narrowing darkness began to weigh on them. The very same system that had felt like an old friend now loomed ominously, as if reminding them that beneath its beauty lay a world of unforgiving darkness and danger. As they pressed further into Plura's labyrinthine corridors, the weight of the unknown began to settle in, a tragic turn that would leave the diving world shaken to its core. The first half of the dive passed without incident, with the team reaching a maximum depth of 34 meters. After 30 minutes in the cold, dark water, all three divers surfaced into the air-filled wedding chamber, a natural cavern halfway through their planned circuit. It was a brief respite, a moment to catch their breath, check equipment, and confirm that everything was working as expected. They had made it thus far smoothly, and confidence remained high. After a quick 2-minute break, the divers descended once again, maintaining their familiar formation. Diver 1 in the lead, Diver 2 in the middle, and Jared following behind. Everything seemed routine, and their dive logs recorded it as a fresh start, separate from the first. For the first 16 minutes, it was just another dive in Plura's eerie yet beautiful underwater world. Then, without warning, Jared's dive log showed a sudden steep descent. He dropped from 25 meters to 29 meters in less than 20 seconds. Something was wrong. At that very moment, Diver 1 had turned around to assist Diver 2, who was switching to a backup light after their primary had failed. The cold darkness began to close in, a tense quiet hanging in the water around them. As they reconfigured their formation, Diver 1 caught sight of Jared's light erratically darting through the water. A chill ran deeper than the cold could ever reach. Then came the sound that no diver ever wants to hear underwater. Jared's voice, distorted through the water, screaming. It was raw and frantic, a desperate attempt to communicate, to cry out for help. At that moment, the abyss seemed to tighten its grip, the weight of the cave and its suffocating silence bearing down on them all. What had been a routine dive was now spiraling into chaos. Jared's erratic movements and cries were the only signals they had, a distress call from someone struggling against the unforgiving void. The beauty of Plura had vanished, replaced by the crushing reality of how fragile life is beneath the surface. When Diver 1 reached Jared, the sight was horrifying. Jared was already in the grips of full tonic-clonic convulsions. His breathing loop wasn't in his mouth. It had been closed, a haunting sign that Jared had tried to switch to his bailout regulator, but hadn't been able to before the seizures took hold. Now, when using a rebreather, if you take the mouthpiece out without doing anything, water will flood the loop because it isn't pressurized. To stop this, you have to close the loop, which is usually done by flipping a switch or turning a dial. This means that Jared knew the mouthpiece was coming out, so he closed the loop to prepare for his bailout system. Unfortunately, before he could switch to his bailout regulator, the seizures began, preventing him from putting the regulator into his mouth in time. This crucial moment showed that Jared was aware of the danger and acted quickly, but the seizure started too soon for him to complete the safety procedure. Panic washed over Diver 1 as he desperately tried to clear Jared's airway, but every attempt failed. Time was slipping away. With no other choice, Diver 1 grabbed Jared, still convulsing, and began the long, exhausting swim towards the exit, dragging his unconscious friend through 250 meters of dark, twisting cave passages. The weight of Jared's limp body, combined with the pressure changes, made every stroke a battle against time and the cold, unforgiving water. It was a battle of will, man against cave. 3 minutes into the struggle, Jared's seizure stopped. Diver 1 tried again to insert a regulator into Jared's mouth, but the jaw was clenched shut. Desperation mounting, Diver 1 knew he had to keep going. He signaled Diver 2 to swim ahead to alert those on the surface and call for help. Every second felt like an eternity as he continued the harrowing swim, dragging Jared through the icy depths. Near the cave's exit, a surface diver met them and helped bring Jared up. When they finally surfaced, 31 minutes had passed since the seizures began, and Jared was unresponsive. CPR started immediately. Oxygen was ready, and AED was deployed within minutes, and the local EMS response via ambulance and helicopter arrived swiftly. They did everything they could, but despite nearly 2 hours of relentless efforts, Jared never regained consciousness. He was gone. What was meant to be a simple check dive turned into a nightmare, leaving Jared's teammates and rescuers shattered, haunted by the tragic loss of a man they fought so hard to save, but ultimately couldn't bring back. After Jared's tragic passing, his family shared a vital piece of information that had been unknown to his dive partners. A year prior, Jared had experienced an unprovoked seizure for the first time. There was also a rare, medically unexplained history of seizures within his family, often linked to overexertion, stress, and dehydration. These factors now painted a clearer picture of the heartbreaking events that unfolded that day. The morning of the dive, Jared had reassured his team that he felt well rested, had slept fine, and wasn't jet-lagged. However, it came to light just a week before the trip that he'd shown signs of a viral infection, battling flu-like symptoms and gastrointestinal issues. The combination of recent illness, dehydration from long-haul travel, and perhaps an underlying electrolyte imbalance could have set the stage for what happened in the cold waters of Plura Cave. While initial thoughts turned to oxygen toxicity as the cause of Jared's seizure, the details began to suggest otherwise. Diver 1 noted that Jared's seizures seemed to come up suddenly and violently, resembling a grand mal not typically associated with oxygen toxicity. The narrative pointed toward an underlying medical condition, a seizure that had no clear warning, no aura, just sudden, overwhelming, and fatal. Medical studies published in 2023 revealed that after a single unprovoked seizure, there's a 25 to 41% chance of a recurrence within 6 months to 2 years. Jared, unfortunately, may have been within that window, the odds tragically against him as he embarked on what should have been just another routine dive. This leaves one question in mind. How can we better prepare ourselves for the unexpected in our own adventures? Share your thoughts in the comments section down below. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.